We want to start by putting a situation in your mind. Picture this. You're the marketing manager for a company, and your boss tasks you with putting together a team to increase sales in a particular market segment over the next year. You pull in members from each department and hold your first meeting. Everything goes well, so you go back to your desk. But no one wrote anything down, there are no action items for people to complete, and there is no plan for follow-up or when the next meeting would be. Generally, people go in one of two directions at this point. Either one, they start doing all the work themselves, feeling personally responsible for the tasks, often going outside the realm of their own expertise and taking away from their own jobs and responsibilities. Or two, they think that there's plenty of capable people on the team and someone is bound to do the work and let them know if they should be doing something. Now, this situation is talking about a work team specifically, but you can really apply this to any type of team, whether it's work, school, sports, a community group, anywhere where a group of people are getting together to accomplish a specific goal. What we're here to do today is teach you a model that we've created to help build and maintain effective teams, simply called TEMPLE. Trust, expectations, makeup, process improvement, language, and finally execution. We chose this model because it's not only easy to remember, but a temple is a structure. And like a structure needs all of its components, including the foundation, walls, and roof to be complete, a team needs all of its parts in order to execute its final outcome and goals. Throughout our presentation, we're going to revert back to the original example that we had and also use some professional football examples as well to highlight things in a little bit more common sense. So the first part of any good structure is its foundation, which in our case is trust. Now, you need to go into your team with a little bit of trust from the beginning and vulnerability. Otherwise, you quickly end up in one of the two scenarios that we highlighted earlier, where you're either doing all the work or none of the work. Both of those quickly lead to resentment and bitterness among team members and ultimately poison the team from accomplishing its overarching goal. You can picture trust as a glass of water. You can go into that first meeting with that glass half full, and from that point on, it's up to you and your team members to decide if you're going to fill that glass up or empty it out. Another big part of trust that's often overlooked is chemistry. The chemistry and rapport built among team members can vary based on the time frame of the project, the number of members in the team, and what the overarching goal is, but you should be working on building that trust and rapport any chance you get during the course of your project. Some ways that you can do this are as simple as going out to dinner with team members, or going bowling to get to know each other better, to as complex as bringing in a facilitator to lead a team building class or structured event. Another easy way that almost any team, regardless of location or number of people, can do is start each meeting off with an icebreaker. This is a simple 1 to 2 minute share by each person answering a specific question like, what did you do this weekend? Or what's a favorite vacation spot? This lightens the mood for the meeting, helps get everyone used to sharing, and ultimately lets everyone know a little bit more about you. You can see chemistry played out in a professional football team just by the way some veteran players interact with one another. A veteran quarterback and receiver, for example, are on the same page at almost all times. You'll see a quarterback make what looks to be a difficult throw, but the receiver comes up with the ball. That's because they've been working on that trust and rapport on and off the field in practices and building it over a long period of time, just like you need to do with your team. You're going to see how all of these examples interact and intertwine with one another as we move through the different components. So now I'm going to hand it off to Ashley to talk about expectations.
Thank you, Lenny. Albert Einstein said, "Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters." Details can seem tedious, but when it comes to expectations, clearly defining them is critical to the success of any team. People need to know what they're expected to do before they can do it. Every time we start a new class, for example, we don't know exactly what we're expected to do until we actually start the class. A combination of what we hear from the professor and what we read on the syllabus tells us what exactly is expected of us. We're given due dates for assignments and a framework for how we will be graded. These are the expectations of our professor or leader, and the more clearly they are communicated, the better we will understand exactly what we are expected to do, and the more likely we are to do it. Expectations in teamwork are similar to those given in a classroom in which we, the students, are the team. These expectations have three main attributes. They're clear, fair, and realistic. In a team setting, work needs to be shared in a way that makes each team member feel important and empowered but not overworked or taken advantage of. This means that expectations need to be well thought out and often revisited to ensure that they are leading the team toward its goal. It also means that the workload is balanced. While at certain times, some team members may work a little harder than others, over the long run, the workload is shared fairly. In addition to individual duties, there are expectations common to all team members. On a football team, for example, each player has a position that has certain responsibilities during the game, but as a member of the team, each player also has team-oriented expectations. He's expected to attend practice at specific times, dates, and locations, work out outside of practice, eat to fuel his body, and communicate with teammates effectively. Each player serves as a key part of the whole. Finally, expectations must be realistic. An expectation set for someone that is above his or her skill set or requires an unrealistic amount of time will likely result in frustration and burnout, causing team members to lose trust in each other and in the team. In Lenny's first example, he talked about the person who feels the need to take on the whole project to ensure it gets done, or feels dumped on when other team members aren't pulling their weight. This is the kind of team member who will try to compensate for everyone else to meet the team's goal, but in the end will alienate other team members, causing unnecessary work and strain on the team. If understood, expectations that are clearly defined, fair, and realistic can, like the terms of a contract, be fully adopted by each team member. When team members support the terms of the contract, they trust each other to uphold it, and ultimately it is more likely that they and the team will succeed. I'm now going to hand this off to Han Jen, who's going to talk about makeup.
Our next part is makeup. Thank you, Ashley. And we know teams comprise a group of people, but a group does not necessarily constitute a team. And teams normally have members with complementary skills. So lack of the clarity about roles and responsibility can be a huge obstacle on the way to success. And so first, to define the roles, we can start from identifying members' strengths and weaknesses, and assign them a position according to their strengths. As long as we can ensure we use our strengths to advantage and manage our weakness to as best we can. And so, on the other hand, responsibility are more specific tasks or duty that members are expected to complete as a function of their roles. For example, if there is a person with vision, he might be assigned to take the leader roles in the team, but his responsibility might include making sure everyone's contributes to the team, and making sure the meeting agenda reflect all the feedbacks and improve on the members, and ultimately making sure his vision is deliverable. So in order to achieve the goal, formal roles are essential parts in the team. And besides that, members may also take informal roles in the team. Informal roles are not assigned, they are assumed by individuals because of their responsibility and the personality, motivation, individual style, and attitude. So just like some teams might have a caretaker, this is a person who makes sure there is harmony in the team and everyone is getting along and everyone's needs are being met. Or some teams have an informal spokesperson. This person takes responsibility for hearing everyone's voice and synthesize different opinions and finally speak up on behalf of the group. So if we looking at a professional teams like football, and on the course there are a lot of positions among unions. So all of them have a more specific activity in terms of formal roles in the football team. But off the court, usually there is a locker room leader. This person may not be the captain. This person might be the most senior player and is respected by the rest of the people. And these people contain the energy for the team and get people excited and force people to move forward. So informal roles have a huge impact on the team. If you want to leverage those effects, it is important to identify them when necessary. So after adding makeup element, let's see what's next in our model.
Thank you, Hongjin. The next step in the model is P, process improvement. So what is process or continuous improvement? It is an ongoing effort to improve processes within a team for the team to meet new goals or objectives. These efforts can be large or small depending on what the goals that the team is trying to achieve. So why is this important? This allows the best teams to continue getting better. In football, the team who won the Super Bowl this year will need to continue to learn new plays, which will allow them to continue winning for the following year. An example we've seen before is BlackBerry and their lack of improvement. And when Apple and Samsung released new smartphones, they didn't end up changing with the times, and this led to their ultimate downfall. So where do you start? There's three components. We start by giving and receiving feedback. First, you start off with timely feedback. It should be closer to the issue so that both parties understand the situation. 2, it should be specific. Tell the person exactly what they need to improve on and set actionable goals. 3, it should be regular. As you go through the progress, they should be discussed on a regular basis and see if there's assistance as needed to this issue. And 4, it should be private. So outside of group settings and in places where people won't overhear the conversation. From there, we move to continuous learning. So continuous learning is understanding gaps in learning and finding ways to fill those gaps. This can be through team building, other things that Lenny mentioned earlier today that can help you relieve some of that. And then finally, we have our plan, do, check, adjust model. So first you start off with plan. This is recognizing an opportunity and make a plan to change. From there we go to do. So this is testing the change within your team setting. From there we check. So we review the results based off of the changes that we've made, and we get feedback from the group on those changes. And finally we adjust. So based off of the feedback that we received and learned, we incorporate those changes into the group and continue through the cycle again. So continuing with the football analogy, continuous improvement is very important in football. When referring back to the PDCA model, a coach can run a new play, and if the team drops the ball, they have to go back to the drawing board. So during their huddle, they can meet as a group and get feedback as to why they might have missed the play, and they can determine what the gaps were in the execution. Then the next time they try running the play, they can run it with those changes that they incorporated, and the goal is finally running that play successfully. So this continuous strive for improvement is the difference between a team that can win a game to a team that can win the Super Bowl.
Thank you, Janardon. The next component of our model is language. So language encompasses both verbal and nonverbal communication. It's critical to provide concise and transparent information. There's a great Harvard Business Review article called Creating a Culture of Candor by James O'Toole and Warren Bennis. They talk about how information should flow freely between teams. It should be open and honest. Teams should be able to challenge assumptions. Teams can't innovate, respond to changing stakeholder needs, or function efficiently unless members have access to timely, relevant, and valid information. There's a great quote in the article by a manager who stated, "The only messenger I would ever shoot is the one who arrived too late." Now this is followed up by an example of a co-pilot who had concealed his concerns until the plane was already going down. Now if he had the courage to speak up, he could have not only prevented a plane from crashing, but he could have saved lives. This is why building trust is so essential, so that no one is afraid to speak up. We don't fall into that trap of groupthink, where we just agree with the majority so that we don't look like the oddball out. A culture of candor really takes a willing listener, a courageous speaker, and someone who's willing to speak truth to power. So we also have that nonverbal communication, known as body language. We have to be attentive to body language because we don't always say what we're thinking. And we have to acknowledge when what's verbally being conveyed is not in alignment with what somebody's body language is portraying. In football, communication is essential. If the coach calls a play, a quarterback must communicate that play to his teammates. Effective communication results in a cohesive team that's in sync with one another, each member anticipating the next play, understanding their role to successfully carry out the play. And body language is huge. You must be able to interpret the body language of not only members of your team, but the opponent's team as well, so that you can identify opportunities and trick plays. So a simple lack of communication regarding one play could mean the difference between winning and losing a game. So now our last but not least, execution. So we need to show that we're going to deliver on our promises. It's all part of building trust. We can figure out the structure, expectations, deliverables, but we must follow through to completion. As Thomas Edison said, vision without execution is hallucination. So a football team can do everything right. They can get along, set expectations, understand roles, work hard. But if they don't follow through with execution of passes and touchdowns, they'll never reach their goal, whether that's winning a game, winning a title, or ultimately winning the Super Bowl. So in conclusion, it's easy to see how each of these components, trust, expectations, makeup, process improvement, language, and execution, all build off of one another to create a successful team. Going back to Lenny's example from the beginning, you can see how that initial meeting could have been much more effective by going in with a set agenda, clear roles and expectations, trust and team building exercises, open and honest communication, and leaving with an action plan and deliverables for each member. Doing these simple tasks allows the entire team to work smarter, not harder, and achieve the best results possible. But as you can see from our temple here, without one of the components, for instance, lack of communication during a football play,
Stephanie, watch out.
the structure would be incomplete.